Okay, how's it going, everybody? All right, so this is going to be the level 2 tutorial I was talking about. What I consider a level 2 tutorial for patching cities has to do with, or patching my mod has to do with navmesh and also dealing with buildings and other clutter. It's half the process is the same as the last video. The extra process is basically the navmesh portion. Now, navmesh can be a bit tricky, but I hope this video helps you with porting your favorite city overhaul mods to an external world space such as Tamriel. Okay, so basically we have to start off. I'm going to show you. So you need the creation kit and ssexedit. Um, First thing we got to do is you're going to start up your creation kit, and this is important. Okay, so we're gonna, let's say, go to my mod. You want to set that as active, or we can just check it out. We're just checking something out right now. So we're gonna set that as active, and you're gonna hit OK. You're gonna load that up. I've already done it, so we're gonna jump to that part of the process. I already have it loaded up in creation kit. So here's the creation kit. It's loaded up. I have my mod loaded up, and oof, it's a little wonky over here. Okay, so actually these are backwards. This is supposed to be up there. It's supposed to be down there. Hey. Okay, so there's a couple important things with this that we want to do. The reason why we're in the creation kit instead of ssexedit first is I want you to do this. This is actually really important when it comes to navmesh based stuff. Okay, I have my mod in. We're gonna go to Tamriel, and I'm gonna go find whiterun. If you've loaded an active mod, you can actually click this and it'll load the new edited references within your mod, but I don't have mine set as active right now. You would probably in your mod, and this would actually show the edited references in that cell. So basically, I'm gonna find whiterun. It's usually down here somewhere. Right here. I'm gonna go to exterior 1. So basically, I went to Tamriel and I went to the whiterun exterior. You're gonna do this with my mod. You're gonna load it up like I said earlier. You're gonna load it up. You're gonna hit set as active, hit OK. Load up my mod. After, you're gonna go to Tamriel, whiterun exterior 1. Now, I'm gonna show you a couple things with this, okay? So all of my, yeah, let me make this bigger for you. All of the markers are out here, right? Let me show you a few things. And I also got capital whiterun loaded in as well, so things are going to look a little weird right now. I'm going to hit refresh. Refresh is F5. It refreshes your render window, right? You press M. That shows you all of your markers. If you want to hide something, not delete it, hide it, you click something like that. You press 1. Twice, it'll hide it. 1 will just render it invisible, and you can click off of it and you won't be able to select it. Alt 1 combined will unhide your references, just like that. To deselect an object, you press D. It's simple like that. If you want to disable an object, select it, right click, edit, initially disable. Now this is important when you're dealing with city overhaul mods that sometimes will have overlapping clutter that you forget or someone forgot or I forgot to disable with the exterior world space. So don't delete them, just initially disable them. You'd click that and hit OK. I'm not going to do that right now. And then you would save in your patch or whatever you're doing. You can do that with markers, occlusion planes, anything, but that's how you would do that, okay? Now the whole point of this, I'm going over all of this, is I want to go over the nav mesh. So, this is important. You want to hit up here where my mouse is. You also want to be deselected from anything by pressing D. It'll mess up your camera. So these little dots up here next to the little speaker box or comment box, hit that. It brings up your nav mesh menu, okay? So, nope. This thing's a little tricky sometimes. All right. So the eye fully open allows you to see it on your objects. This allows you to see through objects, and this allows you just to see the nav mesh as a whole. So you can click back and forth with this, okay? These next three next to it, turning one or the other off, allows you just to select your lines right here. See those lines highlight? I'll click that and vertices. I could select that and vertices. I can now select triangles. So your vertices are these little dots. Your faces are these little triangles. Your lines, well, of course, are lines. So I'm just going to click all these off for a minute. You want to finalize. What happens is when you finalize your nav mesh, you're going to hit that red check right there. And what that does is if there's like I'll show you actually real quick. Let me turn off. See this yellow marker down there? I'll turn my nav mesh on. There's that yellow marker. That's your door teleport marker. It's on a nav mesh. So your NPCs need that to exit and access the doors. So basically, the reason why this is a level 2 is you can't transplant nav mesh from one world space to the next with the script that I was showing you. You have to do it in a manual way. It's actually kind of fairly quick with the way I'm going to show you. But so doing a whole city overhaul, your characters and stuff wouldn't necessarily be able to get in and out of the buildings in the new districts, like for instance that capital ad, because there's no nav mesh over here. So like someone in this building would not be able to get out. Okay, so here's what we want to do. I'm going to exit out of this. My nav mesh is gone, right? I want to go over something. So over here in your cell view window, it's usually below your object window, you're going to look at objects on the right side. All right, these are your references in your cell. It tells you what cell you're in with right here, 5, -2 objects. I'm in whiterun exterior 5. If I, let's say, go to a different cell, it'll kind of like flash for a second and it'll tell you a different cell. You can actually see your cells by pressing B on the keyboard, and all your cells will show in blue right here. So if I cross, I'm in 5, -1, again, 5, -2, okay? I'm in a different cell. So the reason I'm showing you this is your reference form IDs right here, that is actually what you would search up in ssexedit and the left-hand side in the little search window right there, or search selection. So basically you type that in, and if you have issues or incompatibility with some mods, you would search up the mod that could, or the reference number or form ID that is causing that incompatibility. Everything has a form ID, and you can solve that within xedit. So even nav meshes, they have form IDs. And form IDs for nav meshes are very important because if a nav mesh is deleted, it's either because, well, the nav mesh is deleted or the form ID was changed. And one of the biggest reasons I want to show you this is I don't want you to change my form IDs in my mod because it can break other patches and other mods linked to my mod as a master. And it can also ruin or cause a CTD in the patches or future patches that you create if those form IDs change. So basically, when I was going over compacting mods for them to be flagged as an ESL, sometimes it'll change the navmesh form ID. So if my mod, let's say you're creating a patch for my mod, and it's not flagged as an ESL, and you compact your mod to flag or compact your patch to flag it as an ESL, and my mod is only an ESP unflagged. When you compact your patch, it'll change the form IDs in your patch, including my navmesh. Very possible. And when you do that, you'll have two different nav meshes. Now you'll have the renumbered form IDs of the nav mesh within your mod, and then you'll have the form IDs of the nav mesh in my mod. Now, if you have a patch depending on your patch, yes, that's a thing, it'll come out when you clean it that you are missing nav mesh or nav mesh are deleted. You don't want that because that can cause issues. Because let's say a teleport door, like I said earlier, is trying to use a nav mesh that doesn't exist anymore from another mod, the game will crash. That's why you need to keep your vanilla form ID nav mesh, whatever you do. Whenever you create new nav mesh for your mods in a city interior or exterior, you don't want to change the form ID of the nav mesh that are there. You could change the nav mesh. You can reshape it. You always want to make sure it has more triangles, right here it'll say, than what you previously had for the vanilla. You always want to make sure it has the same nav mesh form ID. You could change the nav mesh form ID if you mess up in Xedit. I could show you that in a little bit. So we're actually here real quick to, I say real quick, to get the form ID of this area's nav mesh for my mod. The reason why is because the nav mesh that we bring into here for this new area is going to be brand new, right? So when we do that, we want to keep it the same as whatever nav mesh is within this cell. Okay? You don't want to change it. You don't want to change mine. You want to link it to mine. So we're going to look at this real quick and how this works. So we look at this. Actually, this is a good opportunity. Let me exit out of this real quick. I'm going to hide this, not delete. I'm going to hide it by pressing 1. So I can see where this nav mesh starts and ends. And I'm just in here looking at nav mesh. So I'm not going to save this. I could delete stuff just as long as I don't save it. Because I'm just in here to get my form IDs for this nav mesh I'm going to edit here in a bit. So capital adds a new district over here in the corner. So I need to be able to select faces. And I also need to be able to see what is being added here. All right, so what does it look like? Let me see something. Okay, so we also need to keep the nav mesh in capital, right? Because this is Actually, no, this is a vanilla nav mesh. So we need to actually keep this. You want to keep your vanilla nav meshes as well. If you go deleting your vanilla nav meshes, then that can cause other issues with other mods that aren't even linked to your stuff that edit this area. So we need this one. So you can select a triangle, press F. It'll fill it green, right? And we need to see which one of these nav meshes this is in this cell. Now, this is a quick way, just as long as you don't save. I'll just delete and see which one disappears by coming in and back out. It says 0 tries, so that was the one. So I'm going to press Control Z. It might take a minute. It pops back up. I'm going to go back in, back out. So this is the 179. Notice there's a star because it was edited. Form ID navmesh. So this form ID you want to write down. So 100, okay, 00EA 09A. And I'm gonna write also what cell it's in. 5 -1 Tamriel world space. You could copy and paste on a notepad too, if you would like. And then I'm gonna need my nav mesh, which is right here. I think we're in the same cell, yeah. So this one is probably the bigger one. It's gonna be the 545 one. I'm gonna double check. Yep, it was the 545 one. So we need that one too. And that was the 810. Yeah, 5810, right here. Okay, right here. So you want to write that down. So, right there. Okay, so I'm going to write vanilla next to that other one. And then I'm going to write mine 0, 0, 0, 8, 10. Okay, so we have the nav mesh for this area. We have it for this spot. We're probably also going to need it for over here, is my guess. Let's see. I'm going to select this so I can rotate around it because it's selected. Looks like we're going to need this spot and this spot, which that we can do. All right, so we're going to need all three. You might be able to leave that one alone. So what is this nav mesh? Well, obviously this one's pretty big. And there's only one. Well, there's two. One's small, one's big. So this one's definitely the 467 in cell 50. This is, what is that? Let me see here. I'm writing this down by hand. 000 E 93 A8. Okay. I know this, it goes faster once you get used to it. Trust me. Alright, we're in a different area. So this one is in 60. And it is, this is a small one, it looks like. I'm gonna delete this one, go out of it, and come back. And it's the 00. Remember, don't save if you do it this way. 6E DF3. And I'm gonna write vanilla next to it. And I'm gonna say what cell it's in. It's in cell 60. I'm gonna press Control or Control Z. Oh, don't want that. Control Z. That'll pop back up. Okay, so we have a majority of the navmesh that Capital Whiterun will be editing. This is why you want to look at your mod that you're going to be moving different world spaces and see what navmesh it's going to change to properly prepare for it. So another area that Capital edits is right in this cell. It looks like we might get a little luckier with this. So it's more just this cell. So we're going to highlight all of this. I'm going to move this around. That's another way. Press Control Z. See that star next to this navmesh? So that's the one we need to write down. This is 363 since it's edited or changed. And 363. Oh wait. This cell is 7, -2. And the navmesh is 000. EA, it's in the game I'm playing. 089. Alright. So a good rule of thumb is I would actually load my mod and the mod that you're editing in are going to be bringing into the exterior world space up at the same time and see what parts that mod is going to affect and write those nav meshes down. So we're taking a look now at this one. I'm going to move that around a little bit, leave and come back. So this is the 82 try in cell 6, -2. This is 0, EA again. 090. All right, cool. And this is the slow part. Let's see. Ooh, that falls right on. Actually, are those connected by all? Nope. But this is a different nav mesh for my mod, which we're gonna edit that one. So we need this one for my mod as well. I think this is the 98 one, but we're gonna check right here. So I think it's that one. Yeah, it was. Okay, cool. So Control Z. 98. Let's make sure. Right there, it's that one. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So this one's 05. It's in cell 6, -2 as well. So 05. 000 815. Okay. So I'll write this for my mod. Okay. Fun part. All right. That was the hard part. All right. So actually, we got to do one last thing. All right. While we have exit this, we have this stuff all here. All right. So you're also going to have to do this. I failed to mention this. You're going to have to load up the mod that you're going to be editing in or patching up so you can see what nav meshes you're going to move over. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So there's two ways people do this. you can either recreate the nav mesh from scratch. If it's a small area, like there's a few small areas for JKs, Skyrim All-in-One that I needed the nav mesh, I didn't have to like do all the copying and pasting method I'm about to explain with nav mesh. But for this, it's whole areas. So I'm going to actually copy and paste the nav mesh for those new areas. And I'll show you what I mean. The tool is Xedit we're going to use for that. But so first of all, you're going to load the mod that you're going to edit or make a patch for up in CK. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to click, you can click it as active or not. You don't have to click it as active. You're going to go to OK. I'm going to go to cancel since I already have it loaded. All right. I'm going to go to Whiterun world space because that is where it's at. In this little drop down, you can see all the different world spaces. Whiterun is right here. All right. I'm going to go to Whiterun origin. Wait for this to load. F5. We'll refresh the scene. It's a mess because my mod's loaded. Your stuff won't look like this. My stuff will. Because this isn't properly patched. When something's not patched, this is what it looks like. Okay, so you would actually just load your mod up by itself. Sorry if it's a bit confusing. If you want. um, okay, so the vanilla nav mesh, vanilla is the base game. It hasn't been changed or edited. This is vanilla, right? So this is not vanilla. This is new nav mesh. But we want this. We want all of this. So we want, I'm going to draw a line to divide this. Mod to patch. What I'm dividing is, not dividing like mathematically. I'm dividing to make sure that I don't get confused where the nav meshes are. This is in the interior world space of Whiterun. See, it looks similar, but it's not. It's a different, you can say it's like a different dimension. It's just a different world space. It's another room, is what it is. And the form IDs are not going to be the same for the nav mesh in both areas, or both rooms, per se. Okay. The cells will be, see, this is 5.0 is where we're at. And we were in 5.0 earlier. So what we need is, we need this nav mesh right here. We are in 6.0 right now. We need this little tiny nav mesh. So I'm going to write down 6.0. Trust me, this is going to go fast when we get to the point of actually patching this. So I'm going to move this around a little bit to figure out. This looks like it's the 42 one. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm just going to double check. Was it the 42 one? Yeah, it was the 42 one. All right, so it was the 42 one. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. All right, so the 42 one is right here. It's 0616 Marvel 0D49. So we got that one. We need this one. So those green lines, those are your nav mesh linked from one cell to the next. I'll get into that in a little bit. All right, so we need this one next. I'm pretty sure this is the 192 tries or triangles. We're in cell 50. I'm going to write down cell 50. I'm going to write down that form ID for that nav mesh. It's 0617 0078. 0078. Okay. right. So we got that one. Well, that takes up that whole cell, don't it? Huh. All right. So we're gonna go to the next cell, which is right here. Actually, make sure you get these little ones. Sometimes you'll have little nav meshes off to the side, like these two. We need those. So like this one, this is going to be actually both of those. So one's the 4. Is this? That's not 88. It's probably the 14. So let me see. I bet you that's the 14. I guess if you don't know, we're about to find out. So here's the hard way. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Huh. What in the world? So in this rare occasion, I'm not seeing this nav mesh. Huh. Okay, so we won't worry about that one. Um, we won't worry about the 4. It'll be a good opportunity to actually teach how to nav mesh. So we'll grab this one real quick. This is. Was I just not in the right cell? Let me double check. I've never had that happen. It's really weird. Alright, so we're just going to grab this one over here. So this one is maybe too small as well. Usually the form IDs generate over here, but it's not wanting to for some reason. Weird. Why are you being weird? F5. I'm gonna try to refresh this and see what happens. Nothing happened. So weird. Okay, we'll re-nav mesh that as well. Okay, no big deal. Because these are all gonna have different form IDs anyways. They're not gonna use these form IDs. These form IDs will stay in this world space. And I'll show you what I mean. I know it's getting a little confusing. So this is gonna be a vanilla nav mesh, vanilla being the base game. But we still need if you're going to transport this or copy and paste with this method, you would need this reference number. But for what little area that is, I'm not going to mess with it. We can forget about that one. All right, press D. All right, so we're done with this area. Just got to go get the big area over here real quick, which was over here. Okay, so how big of a space does this cover? That's vanilla. I could navmesh that part. But I can copy this over. This is, let's see, I'm gonna delete this and find out. I wonder, it looks like it's copying, it's grouping all these together is what it's doing into one singular form ID in this cell. So I'm gonna write down 139 right there. For this is cell 6 negative 2, which it's weird. So 0, 0, 0, FE. I could be wrong too. If not, if I'm wrong, then we'd just renav mesh this ourselves. E7. Alright, so we got that one. Let's get this one. F. This one's pretty straightforward. This is the 255 in 7 negative 2 cell. 0, 0, 0, C 8897. Okay, so it looks like that's actually the vanilla one. So that's the vanilla ID because that's actually connected to the Yorvasker cell right here. Okay, so this is a vanilla one, so we have to be careful with that one. We don't want to delete this. In my mod, it'll be okay. It'll be using a different one, but for this purpose, I do want to copy this over. All right, so we have that one. We've got that. Let me see. Excuse me. I think that I'm just looking at some other stuff just in case. Let's get the Yorvasker one in my mod real quick, which is in the Tamriel world space, and then we'll get out of here. You want to take note. You want to be careful with this stuff. You get more comfortable with modding this stuff down the road, but if it's your first time, take it slow. Okay, Yorvasker. Oop, oop. That's what happens when you're selected on an object and you forget to deselect it and you pan your camera. Oh, I'm still. Come on, unhinge you. It's because I'm in that D. There we go. Oof. Alright, so basically what I did is I exited out of the window and pressed D to deselect. I exited out of navmesh is what I did. Okay. That could cause your CK to crash. CK is a very fragile operating or game engine, game design engine. Alright, so going back to what I was talking about, we need Yorvasker. Yorvasker's over here. I need my, I'm gonna hide this stuff. I just need my one nav mesh and we'll get out of the CK. Okay, so I don't know why I hopped over there. All right, I'm in the same cell over here, but in the Tamriel world space. F, obviously it's the bigger one, and it's connected to the exterior, it looks like. Weird. Okay. Must not be loading. Ah, vanilla is being overwritten. Okay, never mind. My my mod's being overwritten. We'll get this when we're in the game later. I'll show you what I mean. But we're good. Okay, we're gonna exit out of here. No, do not save. Okay, so let's go over what we did real quick. So we went over to see what nav meshes belong to that mod that we're making a patch for. In this case, it's capital whiterun, and we're using the nav meshes that we need. We got their form IDs in the cells that we know of in the whiterun world space. We needed their form IDs so we can copy them over into the Tamriel world space, because the script from level 1 tutorial that I talked about will not move um, nav meshes. Now, the reason why I was also grabbing the form IDs for my mod and vanilla Skyrim is because we need to keep those the same, and they can easily be changed by accident, and I'll go over that. So first off, uh, we're gonna start this same process that we did in level 1. Okay, I have my mod loaded up in Xedit already with, let me get rid of this real quick, up in Xedit with, it's flagged as an ESL. This is a big one. You want my mod that's flagged as an ESL, not the ESP version, the ESL, because if you compact your patch later with some of these new nav meshes and you have the ESP version, not the ESL flagged version of my mod, the compacted form IDs will change of the nav mesh in your new patch. And it will say deleted nav meshes or missing nav meshes in any other patch like JKs or anything that you add on top of this that are looking for my nav meshes. Okay, so again, we have my mod and capital in here. This will be a pretty quick one, all right? So we're gonna hit this. We're gonna go down to world space at the bottom. So this is capital whiterun. Its world space is down here. And we're gonna do the same thing that we've been doing in all the other ones. We're gonna do a deep copy as override with overriding. After right clicking on whiterun world space, hit that, window will pop up. We're gonna say ESP, okay? To give you an example of compacting. I'm going to name it. I'm going to say SREX underscore capital. We'll say just capital whiterun, if I could spell today. Expansion, EXP. We'll just say that. Underscore patch. Something like that. This is actually going to take a minute because it's moving a lot of stuff. Alright, so we have our patch, right? We can minimize the capital whiterun. Here's our stuff. It's in whiterun. Okay. Now, we are actually, I'm going to add my master now. So we're going to say add masters. I'm going to hit my mod, hit OK. I'm going to file save, hit OK. Okay. I'm going to go to world space, and then I'm going to go to whiterun world space. Okay. Right click. I'm going to apply script. I'm going to look for the world space move references into another world space. Script. Again, include scripts from subdirectories. Checked. Hit OK. We're going to go to Tamriel. You're going to hit persistence references only from the current plugin, update doors and teleport data. Hit OK. Luckily, we only have just this one world space for this mod, so this will be pretty simple. And I'm pretty used to Whiterun anyways. Alright, so we ran the script, it's done. I'm gonna save it. I'm not going to exit out yet, but I will. Let's see. Actually, we're gonna move on to the next step, which is, you guessed it, run one more script. We're gonna type it in, put world references in the right cells. Hit OK. All right, that's done. Now, this is the fun part, okay? This is why we wrote down all of those form IDs, which it'd be actually faster to copy and paste them, like on a notepad or something. I wish I would have done that. I wasn't thinking about that. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to click on capital Whiterun expansion. We're going to hit filter, apply filter, selected files only. You want yours to look like this, okay? I'm only filtering for right here on the middle pane, NAVM navigation mesh. Hit filter. I'm just going to filter for capital Whiterun. That's it. Hit OK. Now the reason we're doing that, I'll show you. Next, I'm going to hold Alt on my keyboard, click that plus sign. It'll drop all of the nav meshes within the mod. Okay. So we now see all the nav meshes that we want. There's one of two things that we can do. We can look through all these by hand and look at the form IDs. The form IDs are right here. Okay. The 005156C, or those are the form IDs for those nav meshes. Or we can go up here to this little window, and if you were smarter than me and copied and wrote it down on a notepad instead of me actually writing it down, you could just search for them. So the nav meshes we're searching for are the nav meshes that are in capital Whiterun. The vanilla ones and the new ones are the ones you're looking for. So basically when I said write a line earlier and write more in what cell they belong to and what their form ID is in that cell, those are the ones you want. So basically, we're going to type it in this little window up there in the corner. So the first one we're going to go with is 0616 0D49. Okay, enter. Apparently that was wrong, so I think it's 0, not D. Let's see. Apparently that's not it either. Weird! Ha! Was that a vanilla one? 00616 0. Pretty sure that's a D49. That must be a vanilla one that we need then. So, here's something we can do. Right click, remove filter. Alright, hit enter. What in the world? Was that D a 0? What is going on here? Let's try one other one then. 0617 0078. Oh, I know what happened. FEAE 7. There we go. Well, at least we got one to pop up. So we got one navmesh to show up. Alright, so this is in Alright, so we do need this navmesh. So basically, right click, we're gonna deep copy this one into the patch. Go to OK. Yes to all. Okay, so that one is in the patch. The one that we just put in. It is in cell 6, -2. And then the next one that we're going to need is going to be 000 C8897. Hit enter. It is right here. So we're gonna copy as override with overriding. We don't have deep copy into the patch. Hit OK. Yes to all. So we now have that. Okay, so that's 2. I would cross these out as you're going. So we're missing 2 that we need. 6, 0. So I'll show you how you can find these if you missed them. You can go back in the CK and look for them, but we're not going to do that. I think I know why. I think my mod was overriding, so you should just have the mod that you're loading in by itself, so you get these correct. So we're gonna do the whole filter thing again that we were doing earlier. Right click, apply filter, select files only. I still have navmesh selected down here. Hit filter. Hit OK. And then instead of pressing Alt, I'm gonna press this. Drop it down, world space. And then I'm gonna hold Alt on the whiterun world space. Okay. Now what I'm gonna look for is I wrote down the cells that these navmeshes belong in. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see what these are. So we're looking for 6, 0 right now. The cells are right here. This says 6, -2. We need 6, 0. So this is the data bigger. Nope, data's the same. Data is bigger. Data is bigger in that one. Let's see if we could find, oh, just by looking at these. Let's see, this is 5-1 D49. So I messed up. It wasn't 616. It was 516. That's what was going on. All right. So it's this one that we're looking for. Right click, copy as override into overriding. Into that. Hit OK. Go to yes to all. And then we're going to look for cell 50. 50. from the mod that we're going to be patching. And we're going to look for that other form ID that we couldn't get to pull up, probably because I wrote it down wrong. I'm kind of bad at multitasking. I wrote down 17. I wrote down 617. This is 517. So that's what happened. 7, 8. Yep, this is the one. So copy as override into this. Go to OK. Go yes to all. Okay. We're done with this part anyways. The rest is pretty quick. We're going to remove filter. I'm going to save. Glutton for punishment. I'm actually going to open your patch right here, the world space. And actually, we're going to run the filter on this. Apply filter selected files only. Same again, but on this time, we're going to run it on the patch. Hit OK. All right, so basically this is what we've done. We took the nav meshes that are in the areas we want to copy over to the Tamriel world space from the mod that we're patching. All right, we took the form IDs from the mod that we're patching. We took those form ID nav meshes, we copied them into our patch, okay? So next, we're actually going to move them to the Tamriel world space. To do that, we need to find them again. So the nav meshes that we need are actually, let's see, 60, 60 right here. And it's the 5160D49. I'm going to right click. And I'm going to just keep that right there for now. And then I'm going to find the other one, hitting control, hold control. So I'm going to look for 50, cell 50 right here. And we're going to look for 06 or 0517 because that was the other one I messed up. Holding control, I'm going to click it as well. We're selecting both the one down here from earlier. It's this one, that one, and this one. So both of them are selected, right? We need to select one more. It is cell 7, -2. Right here. And there's only one. I'm going to double check though. 8897. Yep, it's this one. Okay. We selected all three of those nav meshes. I'm going to right click on those after they're all selected. I'm going to say change form ID in the patch. Hit OK. Now the reason I'm changing these form IDs, it's because I want to move them from here to a different world space. To do that, they have to be a different form ID. That's how I was able to do it with my mod. That's the only way I've been able to get this to work. All right. So after that, we see that they're white. They're not shared with any other mod. They're new navmesh. Okay. So next, we're going to select one. We're going to go over here to where it says parent world on the right hand side. We're going to double click that, drop that down. We're going to look for Tamriel world space. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the other white one right here. I'm going to control V. I'm going to paste that. Go select the other one. Do the same thing. Control V. Okay. They should all say Tamriel. Tamriel. They all say Tamriel. Okay. So that's the parent world space. Those are where it's going. Next, we need to choose the cell that it's going to. See this up here at the top? It says cell, form ID, in whiterun world. That's there. It means it's still existing in the whiterun world space. We need to change this to the Tamriel world space with the same corresponding cell. See, it says 50. So double click. It's going to turn blue. Go to the drop down. You're going to look for 50 in these numbers. And yes, it's a pain. There's other ways to go about this. I could show you in one of the other ones. Let's see. I usually scroll down to where I say here, or where it says whiterun. See right here it says whiterun watchtower exterior, but it says Tamriel instead of world. So you could look down here to find it. Sometimes it hangs out down here. Look for 50. There's 60. We'll need that later. I'm not seeing it. Alright, we'll come back to that one. We'll do the other ones while we still have the filter. Okay, so we'll click on 60. We know where that one is. So we'll change this one. 60, it already says parent world, Tamriel. We're gonna change this one. Double click, drop down. Go all the way down where we saw it earlier. Whiterun. Look for 60. That's not it. Whiterun exterior. Whiterun exterior 11 in Tamriel world space Skyrim 60. Okay. Now if you have multiple nav meshes you're moving under 60, you can copy and paste that into all of those. But we're only moving that one. That number changed from 5 to 4. This one is now in Tamriel 60. Okay. So we still have 2 left. 7, -2. I'm pretty sure I saw that as well for whiterun exterior. Okay. 7, -2. -2, -2, -2. 7, -2. Wow, we might have to do it for this one too. Okay, so I am not seeing it. Erp. Alright, 7, -1. Oh, right here. White Watchtower exterior in Tamriel Skyrim. Oh, that's 7-3. Got us. Alright. So there's a quicker way, I consider it quicker, than going through this whole thing, and I'll show you that method. We have to remove filter. Okay. So let's go in here and find our nav mesh without the filter. There's a reason why, and I'll show you why. So landscape. All right, here's one. We need this one. This is our whiterun exterior 50 nav mesh. We need this one. Okay, the reason why I wanted to show you this is these drop downs will be the same. So you have block 00, subblock 00 you're going to click on, and then you could find it down here. So for this cell. So again, under this, we're going to go to let's see. We're gonna go to the main game, Skyrim ESM. We're gonna go to, where's world space at? Oh, it's backwards. Huh. Usually world space is at the bottom. So world space, I'm gonna go to Tamriel. Here, I'll actually get this to where we can see it. Tamriel's right here. Oh, that's different. We need Tamriel over here. Tamriel's right here under Skyrim. All right, we said 0, 0 earlier. So block 0, 0. Is there? Ugh, this is being annoying. All right, block 0, 0 right here under Tamriel. It's the same. Watch. See, this is in Skyrim. It says 0, 0 there. I'll scroll all the way down. We're in the patch. It says 0, 0 right here. Subblock 0, 0. We're going to go to subblock next 0, 0. And then after that, we're going to go to the cell 5, 0. So it's the same setup. So 0, 0, subblock 0, 0. Now we're going to go to 5, 0. I'm going to double click. For some reason my drop down wasn't showing. All right. In here you can grab anything. So you can select anything. We just need the Tamriel world space at the top. So that's all we need. So we're just finding an object that exists in that cell. We're going to double click up here. You'll get this window that pops up. You can highlight that, right click, copy, close. That's all you're doing that for. It's just to grab that so that we can scroll all the way down in our patch, click this, go here, paste. That one is done. And it popped away where it needs to go. All right, so we still have one more to do. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I think it was in cell 60, wasn't it? This one's in 60. Let's see. So subblock. Right here. Oh, nope, that one already got moved, didn't it? Did it? Let's see. Let's see, D49. Yeah, that one already got moved. All right, so we don't need to mess with that one. We're looking for the N7 -2 is the one we're looking for the cell. Right here. Here it is. Okay. So this is under block 0, -1, subblock 0, -1, in cell 7, 7, -2, a lot of numbers. All right, so 0, -1 in the Tamriel world space. So this might be actually all the way back up at the top. We're gonna minimize that. 0, -1 is what we're looking for. Oh, right over here. We're looking for the block 0, -1 right here. And then we're looking for 0, -1 again. Then we're looking for our cell, which is 7, -2. 7 right here. I'm going to click on any object, do the same thing all over again. Copy it, close. This goes a lot quicker once you get a rhythm going. We're going to click on this, paste it. I'm going to click anywhere else. All of our nav meshes are copied over that we need. Okay. I know, it's taking a while. Welcome to modding. Okay, I'm going to save, file, save, saved. All right, so next I'm going to go to view. I'm going to click on my patch, go to view. for shits and giggles, I'm gonna go to edit. I'm gonna flag this as an ESL. Oh, it was able to flag it. Perfect. I didn't have to worry. Maybe. We'll see. Oh, yep. I didn't have to worry about any error messages. Perfect. Okay. Cool. All right. So let me go over a few things real quick. Make sure that my two mods, or the mod you're patching and my mod are masters. Again, if they're not yet, you can right click, add master. It's an ESL. Make sure mine's an ESL flag before you go compacting your form IDs if it asks for that. Make sure you save regularly. I'm going to exit. And then we're going to go finish this up in the CK. What, you thought we were done yet? Alright, so your patch is in overwrite. Again, Vortex is going to be in data folder. I'm going to create the patch. I'm going to call it uh, SRX capital white capital whiterun expansion patch. There we go. Hit OK. Boom. There we go. So we have our patch. We're going to go on the creation kit. Make sure my mod is in front of capital. My mod needs to be in front. Actually, hypothetically, even if you're using my mod, it needs to be near the end of the load order to overwrite so it's not being overwritten. It needs to be able to overwrite the interior world space to the exterior. If it's being overwritten, you'll get crazy stuff where you try to enter a door and everything's gone because you're going back to the old world space. Happens a lot. Alright, so again, have all three. Should be capital, my mod, patch. Creation kit, run it. You're going to open it, set as active, the patch active, hit OK. This might take a few minutes. Okay, patch is loaded. We need to go to Tamriel, right? You can actually click this, and the world spaces that it's editing or were edited in the patch are now popping up. All right, we will go to whiterun exterior, double click. This will take a second. So basically all we're going to do now is connect the nav meshes and clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. And then we're done with the patch. Is really all we're doing now. And I'll show you a few tricks to make sure you keep my form IDs for my navmesh and the vanilla navmesh as well, while we're adding our new navmesh. Music playing in the background. Alright, here we go. Okay, so we got all of our markers on. Whoop-de-doo. Well, actually, we're going to go over to, hey, look at that though. Remember last time at getting all this? Nothing made sense. Well, we're in the Tamriel world space. Here's Capital. Capital Whiterun expansions moved to this world space. We have a few clipping issues, not many though. One of them being this wall. The wall that we want is actually, let's see, we want, looks like it's going to be this one. So we're actually going to right click, edit, disable, hit OK. Not delete, disable. And then I'm going to move this below the ground. And same with this piece here, edit, disable, hit OK. Move below the ground, deselect it. I want to get this part as well, edit, disable, move it below the ground. This tower, edit, disable, move it below the ground, maybe a little further. Looks like that's coming a little ways, so edit, disable, move it below the ground. All right, then we got this guy over here. We're gonna hit edit, disable. I wish there was a mass way to do this. Save with this, edit, disable. Okay, wait. Did it? Yeah, it did. Okay. Below the ground. Same with this. This is why it's not as easy as you guys think it is just to patch a new world space. But it can be done. It doesn't take a horrible length of time. I wanted to make this tutorial so it can help people. I don't have all the time to make all these patches. This is one patch. I'm going on an hour right now. And it's not a lot of wasted time explaining either. Like all the stuff I've explained is pretty important. Looks like the ground also needs to be raised up, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this will actually require a landscape edit. To do that, I'll show you what I mean. See how that's floating off the ground? You don't want that. There's either one of two things we can do. We can lower the walls down, which I'm actually going to do because it's less destructive. What I mean by that is it's less edits to the terrain, and if you mess with the terrain, you have to then make it more it's harder to make compatible with other mods. It's something more you have to fix later. So I choose to go the non-destructive route by choosing these. To mass select things, hold control. Z you can hold and move things down. Oof, actually might have to a little bit. Or, you know what? In this case, we can say duplicate on that piece. We'll grab this. S to scale it, if you hold it. Because I would rather someone disable this than actually mess with the ground. And I'm going to duplicate this again. Scale it up a bit. Let's see. I can also I want to keep that. I'm going to disable this. Edit, disable. Edit, disable. This is why you see people move everything underground. Or if you look down there in CK, it's just filled with a bunch of junk because it's better to disable than delete. Sorry about all the clicking sound. I'm gonna hide that to see what it's doing. That's fine. This area is looking pretty good. I'm gonna save real quick. I'm gonna go back and look at that wall. I see some stuff is still floating. I want to duplicate this, hold that, drag this over, scale down. Another thing too is if you have something selected and you hold Alt, you can cycle through different textures and models to find something different if you like. So for this, what if we went for, I don't know, we can go for a dirt cliff or something. No, we'll just stick with what we had. I just wanted to show you that little quick feature. I think it was, oh, oh, there it is. Go with that. I know this is lazy, but unless you feel like watching me for 2 hours, then yeah. You want to make sure there's nothing showing so it looks realistic. You're going to get stuff like this, which is the LOD model from the previous world space got transferred over to edit, disabled. That's from the previous world, so I'm going to move that below ground too. We don't need that. All right, so what do we got? We got a few walls still floating. Do we have anything floating down there? Yes, we do. Duplicate that one last time. Just gonna stick it right in there. Boom. What's the other way? Oh, nope, not that way. We're gonna just go with this way. To make it spin like that, I'm holding the right mouse while it's selected and moving my mouse. So it makes it rotate. You can also press, I believe it's W, to bring up the rotation widget. I think E is the directional widget. Yep. All right. So there's those. Perfect. D. We want to cover that up because that's actually a part of the walkway. So we need to cover that up. Otherwise, it doesn't look good. In this case, you do the same thing, grab something, cover it up, or you would edit the actual mesh itself, the 3D model itself. If you know how, and you know how to do all that, more power to you, and the better patch it'll be. But I don't want to waste your guys' time, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go to save. All right, so here we are. We're looking at this. It looks good. I'm going to hide my markers. This looks really good. I like this. This turned out really good. All right, so what we're going to do is remember what cells we wrote down the navmesh that we wanted to keep form IDs earlier, right? We have those still. We're looking at cell 5, what is it? 5, no, 6, -2 we're in. And I can see what form IDs I wanted to keep. I'm going to jump in the navmesh. I'm going to look at this. It looks like Did any navmesh get transferred over? Well, that's weird. That's really weird. I wonder if it happened for the other side. Let's see. I wonder if those are on the other side. That we wanted. Yeah, these ones transferred over. Look at that. They're overlapping, yeah, but the ones that we want, they're here. You can see it by the pathing. So we'll start over here. This is basically like a trial and error process. So we're going to refresh the window. We're going to look at the mess we got going on over here. We're going to edit this. Initially disable. I'm going to move this down. Same with this. Edit. Initially disable. God, I wish I would have started over here now. Huh. Oh well. We have an LOD. Woohoo. So we're going to edit. Initially disable. Move it downtown. I'm going to hit 1 on this house to hide it, to grab this LOD, edit, initially disable, and we're going to move that down. I'm just pressing 1, I'm not deleting. Same thing, edit, initially disable, move it down. Same with this guy, edit, initially disable, move it down. Alright, so over here, it looks like we do have to mess with the landscape a bit. That's a LOD, edit. Oh, get over here, you. Initially disable. Move it down. Actually, the actual landscape, it has a seam. I mean, this is good practice. So when you have navmesh data from 2 different mods that don't line up, it'll cause a seam like this. So my mod is saying one thing and then capital saying another. So to fix that, we need to be able to see it. Press B to see the cell. And then usually what I do is if your computer can handle it, I'll mass select. I'll press 1 to hide it temporarily. I'll press D. So now I can see the landscape underneath. You press H and you get this giant circle. We don't need that circle to be that big. We want it maybe a 3. Size 3. I'm gonna go to soften vertices. I'm gonna click that box. Don't right click, you want to left click for this. And just follow that seam, just button it back together. That's all you really got to do to correct that. Now, let's say I want to move this landscape down a bit because we're going to have to. I'm going to press Alt 1. Well, after I exit out of this, popped over here. Let's go back to where we were. We were over here. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, we were over there. Whoop. Flying all over the place. D. Alright. We were over here. Okay. So, we buckled or clipped our landscape back together. We're going to unhide Alt 1, unhide everything. Press H again. We need to push this down. So I unchecked it from soften vertices in our landscape edit settings. And now I'm gonna just drag that down underneath the mesh, underneath the 3D models of the ground. Just drag it down, drag it down, drag it down, drag it down, drag it down. You want to get all of that. All right. And now we also found some rock that are clipping through that we don't need. Make sure that's not any ground. That's not any ground. Okay. So exit that. We need to disable that. Right click, because that's in our way. Actually, not that one. It's this one. So this one, edit, initially disable. Actually, hold up. Yeah, that one we will. Move that below the ground. Let's see if that was covering anything up that we needed. All right, edit, initially disable, below the ground. Same with this. Initially, we do this real quick. Actually, we might need that one. Yeah, we need that one. Edit, take that, uncheck. What about this one? Do we need that one? That one we need to get rid of. Initially disable. Now I'm using one to jump back and forth to see what's underneath it. C, D. This is looking alright until we see this. Gotta disable these. I just want to get to navmesh so I could show you guys the fun. Edit. Alright. Edit this. Disable. Edit. Disable. Alright, these walls. That needs to be fixed as well. So that needs to be disabled. Edit. Disable. The reason why you want to disable this now is just get it out of the way. So while you're nav meshing, it's not in the way. Or making sure your nav mesh is correct. Edit, disable. And you could probably fast forward to the point where I actually start talking about nav meshing here in a minute. We're actually about to jump back on it. I just want to make sure this actually looks good. We'll worry about this stuff in a minute. I'm going to save real quick. CK likes to crash a lot, so make sure you do it often. I'm going to disable this. Edit, disable. Bring that down. Get that out of the way. D. Okay. Now we can mess around with navmesh. Woohoo! All right. Navmesh window we need. All right. So we have a couple things going on. We have overlapping navmesh right now. We need to figure out which one that we need to keep. I already know which one. So we need to keep the vanilla. The vanilla one's the one that is underneath that doesn't make sense with what we got. And we wrote down the form ID to keep track. Those form IDs are in here. Remember that. And a good way to see which one belongs to which is by clicking on a triangle, pressing F, and it'll fill. See, we have the one that we copied over from the other world space. It's this one highlighted in green. That's the one that we need, right? So we need to keep this one and this bigger one underneath. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Shane, we can't delete navmesh, so what can we do? Well, there's a few things. You can either move it below ground and keep the one above, like we did all those other things like that, or we could um, merge this and then connect it to this one. That's another thing we can do. Let me see. How are we gonna do this? Because hmm. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna move this up so I can get a good picture of what we're gonna do. This is actually got a lot of good shapes in it. A lot of the exterior stuff we can probably keep. So in this case, you could make this smaller and then merge it into that. But I want to keep it. So my decision with this one is I'm probably going to grab oh, can't do that. Let's go over here. I'm going to move this out of the way for a little bit. F, Control Z. I'm going to just move that below the ground for a bit so I can see what I'm doing. All right. So that one down there, and then we have this one. All right. I want to get to the point with this. So we have our new nav mesh. This one's fine. We don't need to do anything to this one because nothing's connecting to this one. But then we got this one. It's just like the other one, right? So can move that down there too. Now there's one or two things you can do. You can either keep them down there and then just renav this whole nav mesh, but that's really messy, and I'll show you how to clean it up in a bit. But what we're going to do, F, so we're going to move that down there too. We're at B. Actually, we could probably use that one, tell you the truth. Control Z will bring it back. Oof. All right. We're gonna move this down. Okay. I'll show you an example of this. Okay. So we have this one, and then we have this blank area. I'm gonna right click. I'll drop a dot. Control. Drop a dot. Drop another dot. I'm holding control while doing this. I have a new triangle, right? This one little triangle has its own form ID. All right. We want to keep this navmesh's form ID. This is mine. We need to keep this. If we change that form ID, then it might ruin other patched mods. Now how you do that is, so like let's say I make this bigger, right? And basically what I did there is I selected both of those dots holding control. And I can move, I can select one dot and I can move that one dot around. And it's only going to move side to side. Z, you have to press Z to move it up and down. Okay? Now, if you select two dots near the sides or the ends, like that, and hold Control and press right on your mouse, it'll make another triangle. And then you can just quickly nav mesh that way. And then you can move this around the way you need it to go. Another cool little thing is, let's say I want to split this. Hold Control, press right in the middle. Oh, hold up. I won't do it. Let's, you have to actually do it on lines. Thought you could do it in the middle of those, but you have to do it in the middle of lines. So I'm going to select lines and vertices instead of that. And see how that line just turns red? I'm going to just hold Control, and it dropped the vert right in the middle of that line. And you can't have these overlapping like that. See how it gets like a dark red? Yeah. So anyways, here we are making our own nav mesh over here. Okay. So we want to make sure that this is side to side like this, this, and we have that there. There's going to be a door marker there, so we need to make sure that goes all the way up to the door. So that to that to that to that. This is how your NPCs move around, by the way. You want it to go around the small clutter and objects. Otherwise, NPCs will run into that and that stuff won't move. It's your path. I'm going to save, by the way. So, I'm going to keep doing this real quick. Some people enjoy this, some people absolutely hate it. I don't know. I'm okay with it. So we gotta nav mesh the farm because animals need. Oh, see if it's floating like that, you can just delete that little vert. You don't want a single vert hanging out like that. It'll cause issues. And if you're worried about it getting caught on stuff, exit out of your nav mesh and hide this stuff to avoid it catching on anything. Like that flag, it's notorious for catching on stuff like that. I think there's a door. Yep, there's a door right there, so we need that door. Okay, so we need to nav mesh this real quick. This area. So to do that, vert, vert, vert. And then I'm going to click that. Do. It's a rhythm you got to get going. It could be a pain once in a while. One thing I like to do is I'll just have lines selected instead of verts. I'll select that and just pull that out. If I can select it. What's going on with you? Oh, I have to have both selected. That's my bad. And I'll pull that out and I'll split it. And I'll split it there. And I'll just keep growing it like that and pushing it out and pulling it. That's another way to fill. If you have two of them selected like that, you can press A to make a triangle. That's another thing. And you want a triangle right in front of the door. And I'll show you why. You see all those blue and green markers around. That's because there's a door marker there and the NPCs need those to come out of their houses to say hi to you. Alright, so delete that. That's a straight. Oop. That's a straight right there. I'm going to save. I save often nav meshing because you don't ever know when this is going to crash. Alright. So. You want You don't really want really skinny triangles like that. So I usually keep splitting it so I can get away from that. Ooh, but then I've selected a line by accident. I want a dot. There we go. I want to start spreading this out a bit. There you go. Oh, selected too many. See that? You can just do that and do that. There's a few useful tricks I know. Okay, so that spot's navmesh. That would actually connect and go down and around this canal. But, so what we want to connect this. So we're gonna just run this to this navmesh. Now, here's the thing with this, and I'll show you. All right. So we want to keep the form ID of the nav meshes that we have. We want to keep this one and this one. We have these written down, right? To do that, let's say, I don't know, we have this one, right? This is the bigger one. This is probably the 84 one. Let me see. Nope, this is going to be the 127 one in this area. Or the 192, I mean. Almost guarantee it's the 192. That looks like it's 192 triangles. Okay, so we want to keep that form ID. So that 0700800, we want to keep that. How you do that is you select, let's do it this way. You select one vertice off of that, right? Wait, this is the, Is there a cell? Oh, there's a cell there we got. Oh, okay, never mind. We'll get to that in a minute. We gotta do something else first. All right. I didn't realize we were in a different cell. So there's a cell line right here. See the lag right there going across? So there's a cell change. Meaning, let me see if I can. See, we can't drag that. Check this out. Watch. We can't drag that. There's a line there that's stopping it. That nav mesh can only stay in that cell. It's as far as that nav mesh can go. So this is what you do. When you get up to a point like that, we're going to go eyes so we can see. We're going to bring this as close. I can't see it. So we'll do partial. And then we're going to get rid of the lights so we can see better. We're going to bump that up as close to that border as we can of the cell. And then I'm going to split this nav mesh on the line if I can select it. There it goes. I'm going to push that up. I'm going to push this up. Now, the thing is with this, you want to get these nav meshes lined up on the border. For this is how your NPCs cross to different cells. And this has to be done. See this dot? I'm going to line it up with this dot. I'm not connecting them, but I'm connecting the cell. So that dot has to line up with that. So you hold Z to move it up and down, and just hold it to move it back and forth. All right, so I need a dot there, or a vertex they're called actually. I'm gonna bump this one right up to it by moving it upwards. Line that up there. I'm gonna grab that one and I'll move it right over there. This has to be moved up. Now, the reason why you want to do that is NPCs can't cross that right now. If I do this red check mark right up here, this will turn green. NPCs can now cross that. Basically, this green means like, hey, they're good. NPCs are good to cross that. But it has to line up at vertice at vertice. They have to be at the right height and lined up and on top of each other, just like that. That's actually a big pain sometimes to nav meshing. So that's done. Now, I'm going to do what I was talking about earlier finally. We need to keep the form IDs of two nav mesh, right? So I want to keep the form ID of my nav mesh, this one over here, which this one is the, pretty sure this is the 5. Yeah. Am I in the border? Yeah, we're in 5, -1. This is the biggest nav mesh in this area. Pretty sure. This is the 545. So basically, what you want to do is select one dot. I'm going to show you. This 545 is going to jump up. This is the 810. Let me check something. I want to make sure I'm in the right cell. Make sure these cells are updating. 4, -1, 5, -1. We're in 5, -1. Okay. 5, -1. Perfect. Make sure that's the right one. Actually, the bigger one's going to be down here. This is just mine. Actually, this might be the bigger one. Let's see. F. I don't suggest doing this, but we're going to find out. I'm going to hit this. We're just going to go with it. So 545, because we can control Z this if it doesn't work. So 545, the 0600810. We want to keep that form ID. We're going to just click on one vertice. And it's only one vertice on the nav mesh you want to keep. And then the other two at the end of the one form ID you want to get rid of. A. So watch this. So 4545 or 545 is 06810, right? A. It was 545. It jumped up to 562, kept its form ID. It's now 0600810. So it's the same form ID. So again, 1 vertice on that and 2 on the one you want to add to it. So you want to keep your vanilla you want to keep your vanilla and the nav mesh that's created in the mods. That's how you do that. Oof. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to save there. Okay. I hit that green check mark earlier, right? Or that red check mark. We had these markers pop up, and I'll show you. That yellow one right there, where that door is. The reason it's a different color is because that's where your NPC will come out at. They could come out those doors now. And that line should show up again. There it goes. There. Let me get rid of markers. Alright. So let me show you a couple other things. Exit. So another thing is See these yellow markers? These are called collision markers. All right. These will stop your character from moving in this area because they have collision. They're like giant walls. So I'm going to disable these, but I want to make sure these are collision markers. They are collision markers. I'm going to do initially disable, hit OK. Drag that down. Same with this. Edit, initially disable, hit OK. Drag that on down. Save. I'm going to show you one more kind of marker real quick. They're called occlusion. So these are called occlusion markers. These hide objects and they help highly with performance. You don't want them overlapping, especially these cubes. They cause a lot of issues. So you could change the size of these by pressing 2, and you get this little arrow thing. I'm going to just drag that in a little bit. Put it down underneath the wall. You don't want those sticking out of walls. They'll make things look invisible, and you'd have to walk through them to see the objects on the other side. So to create these, you're going to go up here, follow my mouse on the top, and there's an O right here for a plane, and then there's an O for a cube. I'm going to do a plane, and I'm going to click out here, and a little box will show up, and I could change the size of this. Press 2 to get off of that, and you can treat it like another object. Now you don't overlap these. You could do like that on top of each other crossed, but you don't want them inside of each other. You want these in your walls, not sticking out. These highly help with performance. Just thought I would go over that real quick. I know I'm doing a lot of side tangent stuff, but it's a lot to take in. All right, back to nav meshing. All right, so we gotta hide some stuff so we can see. Hide the fire, hide this, hide those, hide that. All right, now we can see. All right, we can see our nav mesh. Yay! All right, so I want to make more of these triangles. I want to connect this more. This is still the, let me scroll up. We're still working on the 810 nav mesh. I'm going to put a triangle here, press A. By selecting 3 dots, press A. I'm going to split that right there. I'm going to split that right there. Again, I'm doing that by left clicking on the center of a line. When lines are selected up here, off to the right there, or left technically. I'm going to put another triangle here. Alright, this video is nearing 2 hours at this point, so I'm going to teach you something everyone might not agree with, but we're going to have to do for a clean, because having all these navmesh profiles or layouts far down below down there can possibly, I've heard, cause lag in performance. So what I like to do, I'm going to select that one, I'm going to fill it, I'm going to bring that all the way up, right? So what we're going to do is this nav mesh that's on this exterior, not the one that's green, this one right here. this has a new form ID, right? This one does. We copied this one over from the original game, or from the original Capital Whiterun mod, and we had to change its form ID to copy and paste it, just to get it to move worlds, right? So we can edit the form ID on this one. Actually, we kind of have to. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it this one's form ID. There's two ways you can do it. You can do it in xedit by just going to, like I showed you earlier, when you change the form IDs on this one, just do a single object and go to the form ID by right-clicking on that object, or we can do it in the CK, which I like doing it this way because it's faster. I'm going to bring this back up. This is the one we want to keep. Ugh, it's laggy. Holding Z, by the way. And I want to, let's say, F fill deselect by pressing Control. I'm going to deselect a few. Let's see. I want to deselect all of these exterior ones is what I want to do. Technically, you're not supposed to do this. Here, I'll show you this. This is what we're going to do instead. So I'm going to look above and say, hey, okay, look. This one time, I'm going to delete off of the vanilla. Technically, you're not supposed to do this. And I'm going to do it this way. But I'll show you what I'm going to do. I will show you what we're going to do. Make sure there's no lingering verts around like this. I'm going to keep the outside of the wall and get rid of the inside of the wall. Let's see. So we need to delete that's connected there. Here, I'll show you what I'm doing so you can see. Other one. All right. So we're going to keep this side of this mesh. And I'll show you why. So I'm going to delete this triangle, this triangle, this triangle, this triangle, this triangle, this triangle, and this triangle, and this triangle. Now if I select this, technically, oh wait, hold up. Let me reconnect that real quick. Should be this big 16 one. So we want to keep, what cell are we in? 5-0. We want to keep the A8. That's A8. So we want to keep that form ID on that one. Let's see if we can do this. So this is the slice that we want to keep. And it has, you can press Control Z if this doesn't work. So this is E93A8 for the vanilla form ID for the navmesh that we want. So this is the one we want to keep. Now what you do is you drag this over, right? And you put it back in place where it was. what you could do. Line it back up perfectly if you can. Hit that green check mark. Make sure those are lined up, those two spots. That's good. All right, you see this one little vertice over here? We're going to use that to our advantage. What we're going to do is the little trick I showed you earlier. We're going to connect these two nav meshes and keep this form ID, and this form ID will then change to this one, and this will go back up. So that little vert's selected, and then we're going to select this one and this one, and we're going to click A. So we want to keep the 3A8. Press A. There we go. The other one is gone, and we have the vanilla one that we want to keep is the 3A8 one. And technically, you want this navmesh to have the exact same amount of tries that it had earlier. It had around 500 and something tries. To do that, you actually want to split some of these up. And I know this is all confusing. It's a lot to take in, guys, I know. So a good way to split up nav meshes really quick is just by actually splitting them up to get back to that number. It's a good practice to have. So again, we want to keep the vanilla nav meshes intact. We can move around and edit them, but we need to keep them, and they need to be about the same number that they had. And then we also want to keep the nav mesh form IDs from my mod as well. So basically, all the stuff I just showed you is what you do to mod an entire city. Okay? So once you go through, you connect all the nav mesh, you line them up just like I said at the green here at the end of each vertice by vertice. You fill in all the pathway. You can select a face like this, right? Select multiple faces. Hit this little check mark at the end, toggle preferred pathing, and it'll turn yellow. What that does is it tells the NPC, like, this is the best path for you to take. Red is okay. There's nothing wrong with it being red. But it being yellow tells the NPCs, like, hey, this is the preferred path that we'd like you to take. So I'm going on a 2-hour here. So basically, after you fully nav mesh, you link it up at the cells like this, You keep the form IDs of those vanilla nav meshes and my nav meshes the same by doing the trick. Like I said, the trick is one vertice from the nav mesh you want to keep, and then two from the one that it's okay to get rid of. And the one that you're getting rid of are the ones that you create or copy over from the Whiterun world cell over to the Tamriel world cell, because those form IDs had to be changed anyways. So it's okay to change them again or edit them again. After you get done editing your nav mesh, and everything's nav meshed up to every door to where it's a different color, or where every yellow marker is, like that. You're going to hit that red check mark, right? And you should see a line like that at every cell border where the nav mesh needs to connect to each other. After you do that, you're going to make sure all of your objects that are overlapping like this is a occlusion house that we don't need. Again, edit, disable, move below the ground. There's more nav mesh you gotta do right there. Same with that. You look around for anything that doesn't make sense and you correct it, like this doesn't make sense. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this wall out like this, or you can take one of these, duplicate, scale it. But it's already, so you would have to build this up and or move the ground up to it, but understand moving the ground gets a little bit destructive, so you have to be careful about that. And then you have to patch that with other mods by fixing the the split um, landscape like I did earlier by smoothing it or flattening it. Um, but yeah, once you get all of this cleared up and looking like it makes sense and looking like it looks good, like you can't look underneath this, like this has to be put all the way to the ground, and that has to make sense. By the way, I'm doing that by holding S for the size, for scale. You can also, you can probably double these walls up too. Duplicate like that. Some people don't mind that. Some people do. Um, in this case, I feel like it'd be the best method for it not to edit the landscape so it doesn't require more patches to look nice. So basically, like if I was patching this more, which I'm gonna take a break on this for tonight, I'd finish this section up and I would do the same exact thing to this area over here. You would test it in game. You would also, after you got it functioning in game, you'd come back in here and you would take these occlusion planes, not these. This is an occlusion cube, which I'm gonna disable this. Edit, disable, okay. I'm gonna drag this underground. They do the same thing. One's just thicker. But the thing with occlusion cubes is they're more likely to cause a CTD, like with your camera if there's too many of them, or if they're overlapping too much, they can cause a CTD if you're in that area. It's better to use these planes because it's a lot harder to overlap these because you can do it like that and that be fine as long as they're not touching. That's fine. Or if they're gonna touch, they have to touch this way, perpendicular. They could be parallel, perpendicular to each other, but you want to go through and put those throughout all of your walls and houses. They help tremendously with FPS because they hide objects when you're walking past them in game while they're in your walls that you can't see. It unrenders those objects. So that's that's a level 2. That is a level 2 tutorial. And once you finish, save and pack it up like I did in level 1, and there's your patch. A level 3 would be trying to get 2 city overhauls to work with each other. Have a good night, or good day. I am going to save because I can continue working on this. Remember, you want to keep vanilla form ID'd nav meshes, and you also want to keep my form ID nav meshes in my mod. Okay, you want to keep those. Way to keep them in the creation kit, remember, one vert on the one you want to keep, two on the one that you want to get rid of or that you can edit. Press A to create a new triangle, and it should keep that form ID of the one that you need to keep. The vanilla form ID and my form ID. It's a big thing, trust me. All right, have a good day.